In my last YouTube update, I was talking about the importance of this $104,000 zone for Bitcoin, which we have finally hit into for a major buy the dip opportunity for new all-time highs to come. Well, the dip that we were waiting for is here. We have hit into the low of that CC Fibonacci level, a major support level, which was massively eye-opening to me for, wow, what a lovely opportunity once again that Bitcoin is giving us, to load up on longs for new all-time highs to come. I was, and still am very bullish on Bitcoin. So what I want to talk you through in this video is picking up from the last video that we made here, where we were looking for this to drop down into this zone. It was a very big level that we were talking about. This is where we got the biggest support, that level now being hit. I wanted to make this one. Why? Because there was some confusion over a post that I made over on Twitter where I'm talking about $84,000. And I think some people are thinking, Daniel, but this is the major support zone right now at $104,000. How can you even be thinking about $84,000? And some people actually commenting here that it is impossible for Bitcoin to go down to $84,000 in a short period of time. Well, impossible it is not. Bitcoin absolutely can drop to $84,000 in a short period of time. With the amount of liquidity and stop losses that's been built up, it is more than possible and very likely that Bitcoin absolutely could see, if it starts getting going, a very big drop to the downside. So I want to basically make this video to remove the confusion around this, remove any confusion that you might have of, well, Daniel, in the last video you're talking about this being a massive buy the dip opportunity. Well, is it or isn't it? Well, I'm going to give you my honest analysis, honest thought process, and clearly explain my position here, because I understand it's a little bit hard to understand on Twitter. That's why I wanted to make this full video explaining. So I truly feel that this is a crucial video for you, extremely important for you to fully understand everything. I give one tip, and that will be listen closely. Don't skip through it to the part you want to hear, but listen closely. Everything is important, and only through listening the whole video and understanding the full context, you're going to be able to understand what I'm trading about, and understand that it's definitely not impossible to see a big move down. So yeah, with that said, let's start off giving a quick, 2-3 minute run through of, what's happened since the last video. Then of course we'll move on to what's happening now, and of course then what we're looking at next. So, I was very much aware of this move to the downside. I did originally have a short as well from $112,000, which I ended up closing around $108,000. And that was because I was no longer trading the failed auction. And well, in the end, this was yesterday. So this video, when was it originally released? This was originally released around Monday, Tuesday. And then yesterday being Thursday, we actually had a valid short trade set up. So I'm not a trader that's against taking shorts, as very much so if you're in my group. And I think this is a very, very, very nice trade. I'm going to play a little bit of a clip so you can fully understand. But just a little bit of snippets from my Discord. This was the daily morning update yesterday. We were looking essentially for this as where we are right now as our big major support level, and why we're waiting for this to move down into the zone. And in the end, we actually got a really valid short trade show up. And, I've been posting it over on X about, taking the short, remaining in the short, and, really waiting patiently for where we are now. This is just a 1 minute, 1.5 minute clip that I want to play here, just so you can fully understand the context. This is also something that you can learn from, and then we'll be back to explain what we're looking at next. But yeah, listen to this a second. Extremely useful. I truly believe this in terms of position sizing, laddering in, invalidations, targets, the whole trade setup. Just pay close attention, because I assure you this will help. So with that said, let's jump into the charts. So a bit of a technical analysis first. I am super bullish on Bitcoin. I truly believe a new all-time high is coming. You might be wondering, well, you've got a short trade lined up here, Daniel. That is correct. So my personal bias is all-time highs. I truly believe Bitcoin is very bullish. The technicals even show me that it's bullish on the higher term time frame. But my personal bias aside, there is a valid short trade setup right now in front of my eyes. Why is this? Well, first of all, actually, we have this really awkward looking bottom with a, 3-4 touches at the low, 1, 2, 3, 4. And 4 touches of a level, which in my opinion is front running the major level of support. And we're in a bit of a context right now where we've just reached full FOMO, let's say, on the stocks, where we're about to see a massive gap to the upside on Nvidia. I just know there's a lot of euphoria and a lot of happiness. And so I'm recognizing that this is a nice time to essentially fake out the market. And again, like if I was just trading my bias and not the charts, I too would be thinking that price is about to do this. So if I think that's probably what I would be thinking, I think that's a lot of people are thinking, super bullish right now. So it kind of makes it play out really nice for this to drop down first. And then here is where I'll make my next informed decision. Do I close my short here expecting a big bounce up? Or do we just see continued weakness? That will be the next part, right? But for now, I'm very, very interested. I'm going to take this short in front of your eyes. So let's load up. Shall we? So yeah, really simply, that was what a trade recap that I made yesterday, and it was explaining taking this short trade that I'd planned for during the daily morning update. So it's kind of like one of those things, you make the plan. Well, we had to remain patient for it to actually come up into around $109,000. So we had to this happened around 2-3 hours later. We got the move up, and then when I recognized it's time to take that short trade, even though I have like a personal bias, which is, we can absolutely see a new all-time high. If I have, removing the personal bias aside, so we have a valid short trade setup. So I'm going to trade that valid short trade setup, which is, exactly what I've done. And then it remains, so a case of being a bit patient as it's making its way down, waiting for below $106,000, no hard take profit, but a trading stop loss. Then I had my alert finally going off for breaching through $106,000. This is last night UK time, 9 p.m. Alerts are going off around this time, and I say to my team, champion members, right, no long trade for me yet. And well, here you can see at 1:30 a.m. UK time, and then and again here at 10:30 a.m. We made 2 new lows. So the original idea of not longing here was correct, as we've dropped down a few more times since then, and that's as soon as we hit $106,000. And just the reasoning behind this was, as you can see here, after sideways for 1 week above this level, I don't think we bounce back instantly. So staying short for now and no longs yet. That's the idea that that I've been going over. And so I hope that's given you enough context of why I took a short trade in the end for this to make its way down. Again, this was 2 days after this bit of price action. We had new price action since then. You can see we went up, down, and then I got in on the retest here, and it was just simply a valid short trade. And so, long story short, got back in a short and bringing us down to where we have been calling this major support level of $105,000 CC. And I really feel that this is a zone that we're in now, the first support to the range point of control, which is, this is our big support zone, and that comes in at around $103,000. Let's just call it $500. So, the question that you'd be thinking to yourself is the long trade now? Have you longed the dip? What are you looking at next? So that's what I want to explain here. I actually want to first, though, address this thing about $84,000 because this is actually kind of funny because I was looking to change software from EXO to potentially Atos or Quant Tower, and this was just doing my own research and actually saw the point of control on EXO, naked point of control back here. You can see there's not been a weekly naked point of control since $84,000. So I was just simply, that's why it was brought to my attention so easily. 84,525 on EXO, TradingView 84,522, Atos 84,480, and Quant Tower $84,535. So that's why I mentioned $84,000, as you can kind of see. That is the next weekly naked point of control below us. So I just put out this tweet saying, down the rabbit hole I go, working out why these values are different. And then I get somebody, saying that they're depressed because they think we're heading to $84,000. And I mean, this is just a prime example. And do not think this is a one-off. Like, people read into my posts and make it sound like I'm saying something that I've actually never said. And I read all the time people saying, oh, Daniel's bearish because of this post, or Daniel's super bullish because of this post. When in that post, they're kind of reading into something that I've not even tried to say. And this was just a prime example of how how Chinese whispers, I suppose, works and all this kind of stuff. Because yeah, it's just, you know, I've never actually said that we're going to $84,000. I was just posting about the weekly naked point of control, making no assumption or statement that we're going there. And then I say people saying they're getting depressed because they think they thought my post means that we're going there. Like, you know, I'm not trying to hide cryptically different things like this in messages. You know, no, that just simply was a statement that I'm very interested of why those point of controls are different. Anyway, we digress, and I'll talk you through what I'm looking at here then. So, of course, the first option, and I will talk you through both options, and then I'll give you my trade. I think that's the best way to do this. So the first option is, you know, a much bigger drop to the downside. We have currently seen from high to low around a 6% pullback from our last high to low, around a 5.8% pullback. So this is you know, it's not really a big pullback when you think about the pullbacks in Bitcoin, but it's the first time we've seen over a 5% drop. So it's pretty significant to be aware of. But we are into a crucial support. But the you know, the first thought is, well, currently when you look at of course, here to here, this is a lower high. And when you zoom in a little bit, you know, let's come down to the 30-minute chart. Obviously, here to here, well, here, well, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high, lower high. But more importantly, when we come down to the 15-minute viewpoint, just here really locally, you can see lower high, lower high. Well, once again, lower high, lower high, lower high. So we're doing a real clean series of lower highs since that failed auction. And so after that failed auction, making its way down, putting in a series of lower highs, if we are unable to get a reclaim, you know, a safe reclaim would be $107,000, but I'll talk you through the bullish scenario in a minute. If we are unable to get these nice reclaims of resistance back into support, and price is just going to make its way down, well, then, of course, this can absolutely bounce off of these support levels, but ultimately, there's a lot of weakness. There's no strength being shown, and the longs are the people that are going to get squeezed. And, you know, to say the statement of $87,000 is impossible, well, I do not think it's impossible, because it wouldn't be out of the ordinary to see a massive, once this gets going, you know, Bitcoin either side, once it gets going strong. And so just as it can pump very hard and very quick, it absolutely can get these massive moves to the downside, kind of because of the way the market structure works, right? There's everybody, you know, myself included, you know, a lot of people have longs from $70,000 to $90,000. You know, everybody's in profits. You know, there's not a real reason to close longs that you have open from down here. And so what you do is you trail your stop loss up in profits. And, you know, let's say if you're long from down and around here, your stop loss absolutely at this point could be trailed likely to around $101,000. So what kind of happens is, well, if we bounce up from here like this, everybody still remains safe. Everybody's stop loss is not being hit. So, you know, it's a nice scenario. But at some point, price is going to break down. And once you hit these stop losses, it's not just one minor stop loss, but there's going to be millions upon millions upon millions of stop losses being hit. Because of the way, you know, if you've got your longs from here, it's been so easy to raise your stop loss in profits, because so far we have not broken those higher lows. So once those clean higher lows have been broken, that's where you can absolutely get a massive move to the downside. Because for the first time, you've actually seen during the whole of this trend, you've hit a major higher low pivot. So you can get those liquidations. So to say it's impossible to hit $84,000 quickly, you know, but there's nothing impossible in this market, first of all, and second of all, it's I guess when I think about it, likely is not really the right word, but it's still a good high degree of probabilities that a big move, you know, a quick move to the downside would come off the back of that. Okay. So that's my first thoughts, that we are, you know, as I was saying in the previous video, to be fair, this is a crucial support zone. I really, you know, from a bullish standpoint of wanting to see new all-time highs, I would like to see this zone held as support, because I feel that if we lose this support, then I would look for another, you know, at least $10,000, $15,000 drop to the downside. And you can only imagine how altcoins are going to get absolutely wrecked if that happens. And I know a lot of you like altcoins. So, yeah, if you like alts, you really want to see this hold up, because if Bitcoin drops 15%, well, altcoins are going to be dropping 50%. So, they're already down bad, but they're going to be down even worse. So, that then brings me on to, what am I looking at next? What is my trade from here? And of course, I will always give this in an honest viewpoint. I'm not here to hide, to deceive, to trick, to use liquidity to fill my bags, etc. And it just brings me off to this point that I actually made here, which sparked this comment. And that was, I do love crypto. I have a massive, massive, massive love for cryptocurrency. I genuinely enjoy trading crypto. And I do like the space in terms of chart champions community, right? This is why I do what I do. Like, I'm very happy and, proud to be here and as like a kind of leader trading in this space. I'm proud to be here. But what I do not like about the crypto space in general is because that is very, very sad, right? You just have to look around and you can see that there is lots of scammers, hackers, people wanting to shill you their bags. They're generally going to be these low sat altcoins, everybody out for themselves, and they don't care who they hurt to take your money. It is a little bit depressing when you kind of realize just how much, just how much pain that there is in this space. And, that's why I kind of want to lead by example and show you, it doesn't have to be like this. It's hard to find genuine people, but that's why I pride myself on giving you my honest thought processes. And I think it's fair to say, like, you've never seen me shill a random altcoin. Never. You've never seen me shill. You've never seen me try and put my bags on you. You've never seen me, do these types of practices. I'm not even here, like most people, every video trying to push down your face affiliate links. In the past 10 years, how many times have you seen me talk about that? Once or twice. We have affiliate links, people can feel free to use them, but this is not my idea to push things down your face, to get you to sign up to this, but make you buy this random altcoin, to trick you into filling wrong positions. No, this is my honest thought processes, and of course I can be wrong in my thought processes. I can get trades incorrect, but everything I tell you is genuinely honest, and I think that's why people like my videos, as well as, of course, I'm very knowledgeable in the fact. But anyway, digressing, I want to talk you through what I am looking at here and why I have not yet taken a long trade on Bitcoin. And you might be wondering, why, Daniel? You've hit into a really nice support level. And I agree, we have hit into a really nice support level. And you might think, well, why are you being so cautious then? Well, the reason I'm cautious here is because of the lower term time frame market structure. As I've been saying, if we can get a nice reclaim of these lower highs, I will long. I will happily long. The invalidation is going to be around 2%. So I actually had a really funny comment yesterday. I'm very much liking Twitter and all this type of stuff, by the way. I had this really funny comment yesterday when I said about the short trade I was in. I was like, yeah, I'm taking a short trade on Bitcoin. Where was it? Yeah, they're here. Taking this short trade on Bitcoin. You can see around 1.3% invalidation. I had this person saying, I would never take a trade with such a gigantic invalidation. I was like, since when is a 1.3% stop loss a gigantic invalidation? In my opinion, it's a very good stop loss, wide enough to give the trade, the short trade here, room to breathe. And it's not so big that it's an awful risk to reward ratio. So it's the same here. Before someone says, oh my God, a gigantic 2% stop loss, how on earth could you do such a thing? It's all about dollar risk. Okay, it's all about dollar risk. So whether I'm using a 1% stop loss or a 10% stop loss, I'm risking the same amount of dollars on the trade. So yeah, my position size is obviously smaller if I'm using a 10% stop loss, but my risk is exactly the same. So stop loss percentage size is really, really, really irrelevant. My risk is always the same on every trade. So yeah, I wanted to address that as well. But yeah, I would wait really simply for a reclaim. And there's a few ways that you can do this. Of course, when I talk about the 2% stop loss, this is where if you're waiting for the lower highs to be reclaimed. There is a few different methods that you could be using here. First of all, we got the bigger range that we're pushing into. Yeah, so this is what I would say is a very, very, very important level to see reclaim. So that's around, I'm going to always say there's a few $100s either side of this, so I would never look at a level as an exact dollar. But we can see this zone here. Would be nice, right, to reclaim, let's say $107,000, right? Because if we can reclaim this, it should be good for a very big move to the upside, because that's a very strong reclaim. We will have changed market structure and reclaimed the local value area low here. I would say that's a very, very, very good reclaim of a level. And at that point, you know, I would definitely position myself in a long. Well, I already have longs from lower, but I would be compounding my longs. And the more aggressive one, which, you know, sometimes doesn't work out, because if you wait for the market structure change, let's say, and you wait for this reclaim, and then you are instantly going into the value area low, and this is a resistance level. Okay, that's why you want to see the value area low reclaimed as well, because that's where you get the activation for a bigger move to the upside. Just changing the market structure with the value area low is not too healthy, because of the fact you can absolutely reject off of that. So you got to take into consideration position sizing, maybe laddering into this. Okay, laddering in is a very nice method, right? You could maybe only go into 25% of your position on the market structure change. That way, if you get stopped out after a value area low reclaim, you've got a very, very, very small dollar risk there. You know, if we're risking, you know, $1,000, let's say, on this trade, and only going 25%, well, I'm going to lose only $250, right? So, for example, again, I'm not a mechanical. This is, you know, if I'm taking 3 laddered entries, it's not always 33%, 33%, 33%. You know, I'll weight it around. Anyway, I digress. But the loss is going to be a lot smaller, whereas then you size in on the reclaim. So your average entry is a little bit higher, but you've got a lot more probabilities. So, yeah, when I answered a question anyway of, you know, have I taken along at this major support level that I was waiting for? Well, my answer is no, because I'm waiting for a little bit of a sign of strength. And some people really find that a bit funny, right? I remember actually at the lows. Okay, I remember at the lows down here at $75,000. I did not long here, as I did not long here. And, you know, there was a big move to the upside. Why did I not long here? Because there was no strength in the market. There was no market structure change. There was no reclaim. There was no strength. And a lot of people, you know, will kind of make fun of me. Oh, dang, you look at this. You missed the long trade on Bitcoin at the absolute low. Ha, 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 ha. You were bearish at the low. Oh, la, 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 la. You know, this type of stuff, you know, is the comments I have to endure. But guess what? I waited for the market structure change, so these lower highs to change. I waited for this move to the upside. I waited for a, you know, locally, a sign of strength, a reclaim, which was of $83,000, where I added in more size. But this long here is where I took my long at $79,000. If you go back and watch my videos, I've explained this. So yeah, I didn't long the exact low, but we're talking about the difference of 4%. You know, and when you're remembering that this come off the back of then a, you know, over a, you know, how many percent move to the upside? You know, a good 40% move to the upside, right? You know, I'm not really that bothered if I'd missed the absolute low. And, you know, I think other people care more than me, to be honest. Because, you know, this is the thing, right? Yeah, I missed the exact low because I waited for the strength before I bought. But I wanted you to remember very well that we dropped from $110,000 to $74,000. And I was not longing. You know, I was remaining patient because during this whole move, there was no strength for me. So I was not continuously taking losses on longs, but I waited for that first initial strength locally, you know, where I took my long. And so the same thought process is here. You know, I'm sure there's going to be somebody that, if we do this, is going to say, oh, Daniel, look at this. You didn't long the exact low. You know, but I could take my long on the reclaim here. And yeah, I haven't longed the exact low. I've longed after a sign of strength. But I am protected if we just do this. You know, and we make a new low here. Whether that's a new low to the point of control or whether it's a new major low. I've been protected. And again, this all comes down to your risk. This comes down to like the way that you approach risk, you know, the way that you view probabilities. how much of a gambler you are at the end of the day, right? I put out an offer right now to what's he called, James Wynn. My friend, the guy went from $0 to $90 million in a very short amount of time, right? Let's call it a few months. 0 to 90 million. The same guy went from 90 million to 0 in a few days. You know, this is just massive gambling. People don't know what they truly just don't know what they're doing. You know, I invite him and I invite everybody that has that mentality. Join Chart Champions, right? you will learn the necessary skills to not be liquidated. If you get liquidated and you're in the group, it's because you haven't actually listened to what we teach. You know, you will always avoid liquidation. You will always wait for high probability trades. You're not going to be shorting at support. You know, I'm not shorting here. I'm waiting for the long. I'm just waiting for the probabilities to increase with a sign of strength. Now, I hope you can understand that, right? So, you know, that's what you get at Chart Champions, right? This is the way I trade. And, you know, I say it not to brag, but just to remind, I've made the millions of dollars in trading, and I've not made them all and lost them all, but I've made them all and then made them a lot more. Just, you know, I've got a very good style of trading. And, you know, I think if you look at a successful trader, then this is what you are looking to accomplish in Chart Champions, right? Kind of replicate my journey, and that's not being through luck. It's not being through gambling. It's for a very well hard cold thought process and strategy when it comes to taking trades, right? So yeah, I really wanted to make this video, as always. You know, I'd say it again, transparently and honest for you all. You know, I'm putting myself in a position, you know, where I'm telling you what I'm looking for. I want to see the sign of strength. And I also know, my friends, that trading is not a guarantee. We can see a sign of strength like this, and our expectations would be a big move to the upside. But of course, you can see the strength from the reclaims, and that trade still loses. We can see that, and then it comes straight back down. You know, it's a game of probabilities. That's why risk management is so important. It's why I always know my risk before I enter the trade. You know, I'm not entering that trade and risking half my portfolio, right? I'm risking a tiny percentage of it. So, you know, you know, I just say this: risk management. I know it's maybe a little bit of a hype word, or, you know, a bit cliche for some people, even because, you know, you know, there's kind of this, you know, I've gone through every type of trolling. I've even been trolled for talking about risk management. Oh, this guy just talks about risk management. But nevertheless, like, it is important. And I know some people will, I don't know. I don't understand some people, I think. But, yeah, what I do understand is the importance of risk management and the understanding of probabilities. So I believe that there's still a nice degree of probabilities to all-time high. What I do not believe is there's a 100% guarantee we're going to all-time highs, you know, because there is no 100% in trading. I know some people think that what I'm saying is a guarantee, or, oh, if Daniel's bullish, then we got to go up, or if Daniel's bearish, then we got to go down. No, that's never been the case. It never will be the case. I have good, strong biases. You know, and I do win a lot of my trades. You know, I'm generally right with that bias. But I also know where I'm wrong on it. I know where to get out. And I know I'm not, you know, betting the farm on a trade, right? I'm got $1,000 a risk per trade on average. And you know, I'm happy to trade along with that, right? So, yeah, I'm waiting now for the sign of strength. You know, to address the comment, never can see $84,000. We absolutely can. And if we are to see $84,000, I'm happy with that. Okay, I'll have been out of the long trade, and, you know, I'll happily see it drop to the downside. So before that, I think we have a few, well, the major next level is the point of control here around 103,500. So, you know, of course, I'll wait for one of two opportunities for the long. The first is more of the reclaim, which is in a sign of strength. I'm not against trying to snipe the low. So if we drop down again, I'm not against trying to get in along here. It's just I have to see the order flow line up at that level. You know, so what do we mean by order flow? Well, we mean order this. So when you talk about order flow, we're talking about this, right? You come in here, you start to look at the As you hit into the level, you'll be looking at your HL, your time, your trade counts. We'll also be taking a look at the delta, the CVD, the open interest. These are the really key statistics on your footprint charts. You can get a very, 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 very good entry, which does snipe and time the low with order flow software. So again, that is much, much more advanced. This is not really what I would recommend to most people watching this YouTube video. And unless you're in the Champions membership, then you already, then you're much more prepared for this. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you don't know much about order flow, then this is what we teach every single day at Chart Champions. So you can come over and join the courses and absolutely learn right now as Quant Tower, TPO, order flow, everything that you need. And that's how you can kind of snipe these entries. Remember, I had that short trade from $112,000. That was sniped because of understanding of order flow. And so the same again here. I'll wait for one of two things next: the move to the upside and a reclaim, or a move down into the point of control if we get some good order flow. Alternatively, we can just continue these lower highs, lower highs, lower highs. Boom. Bigger move to the downside, right? So again, I've not made a strong prediction in this video, or this is going to happen. I'm saying I'm open to the market. I'm open to see it rise. I'm open to see it drop. I believe I can extract profits if we get a big drop to the downside, and I can extract profits if we get a big move to the upside. So I'm happy to see the market move in whichever direction the market wants to move. I'm not here to try and influence, or I'm just a humble trader in the market. Okay, I'll trade it, go either way. What I'm after is to profit on that big move. What I'm not here to do is even try and say to you, this is what's going to happen next. Because there is 101 different things that can happen next. So we need to remove that fog of needing to know and understand the market is a random probability. Yeah, we can have high probability trade setups, even such as a 90% win rate setup. But each individual trade is a random probability of winning. Okay, random, right? We either win or we lose, but we never know that next trade. We never know. What I'm trying to say here is our next trade a winner or a loser? That trade with a 99% win rate, well, could be one of the 100 taking a loss. You never know whether that next trade wins or lose. So you never know what's happening next in the market with 100% certainty, right? You can have good probabilities, and that's why we wait for our best trade setups. We execute, we use good risk management, we know our stop loss and invalidation, and we know how we're taking profits or alternatively trailing our stop losses to secure hard, cold profits. That's what you're here for. You're not here for your ego. You're not here to post some screenshots on Twitter. You're here to make profits. Well, that's what I'm here for. And I'm also here, of course, to help you along the way to secure those profits, right? But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the video. I digress. I say thank you ever so much. It's a joy every day to be here. Of course, these videos are not financial advice. They are here to educate you and help you, along the way in your educational journey here. So yeah, anyway, hope you've enjoyed. Thank you ever so much. If you want more, you know where to get it. chartchampions.com. Thank you. And that is a goodbye. Cheers.